Okay, and I don't know why RBN has not connected yet, but greetings to all of our YouTube followers. And okay, I don't know what's going on here, but we seem not to have a show. Oh, there we go.
Are you there, Michael?
Yes, I am. Seems like we're starting a little late. What's going on?
Well, I tried calling you and there was no answer. Skype was not working.
Yeah, well,
by.
Skype is like that a lot, but I guess we're on the air now, aren't we?
You're live. Stand by.
I'm live. All right. Welcome to live radio here. And once again, Skype is doing the terrible job that it does in connecting people because I did not even get an indicator here that I was being called. And so it's Friday, April 9th, 2021. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We've got a lot to talk about today. It's actually been, surprisingly for a Friday, a very busy news day. And so we're going to do news until we run out of news, and then we're going to open up our phone lines for your comments, questions, opinions, and observations. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And so let's get right on into it here. The big news today, especially over on corporate media, is that Britain's Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh and husband to Queen Elizabeth II, has passed away at age 99, so nobody can say he tragically died young. He had been in the hospital a few weeks ago, and there was a lot of speculation that he was dealing with some serious medical issues. But 99, that's a good run. Really can't complain about that all that much. Turning to our local politics here, Joe Biden has made a couple of very alarming comments. One is he's saying that the Constitution is not absolute. The amendments are not absolute. He was specifically talking about the Second Amendment. And now he's creating a commission to study packing the Supreme Court. And unfortunately, the number of justices sitting on the Supreme Court is not defined in the Constitution. It has, in fact, been changed many times over the years. At one time, they actually had 8 justices, which led to a lot of tie decisions, which is why since then they always strive for an odd number of judges. But we know the liberals were threatening to pack the court after Trump appointed 3 justices during his administration. And so it looks like Biden is moving ahead with adding liberal justices to the Supreme Court until they can get a majority to push through the agenda. Now, Hunter Biden is back in the news. He's basically put out a book to try and polish his image a little bit, and it really isn't working all that well. Over at Your Destination Now, they're talking about the secrets that were not in Hunter Biden's book, how he got unauthorized Secret Service protection, how he begged Joe Biden to run for the White House in order to protect himself from his own reputation, about how he made porn movies with prostitutes. And forensic experts have looked at the laptop again and confirmed it is his machine. It is not Russian propaganda. It is not a fake that Vladimir Putin put together in his basement and used a lookalike to drop off at that computer repair place. Now, Hunter Biden's autobiography promised the unvarnished story of his struggles with drugs, family turmoil, and his controversial love life. But as we're discovering already, there's still a lot of varnish there to be removed. Story coming on out of rumble.com. More and more of the photos and videos that were on Hunter Biden's laptop have now surfaced, including some pictures taken by his dentist. Apparently, he had to have a lot of dental work done because if you're using a lot of meth, it can really damage your teeth, even worse than tetracycline. And so for some reason, he felt like keeping those before and after pictures, which I think is a little pathological there. But more and more of that stuff is coming on out. And the corporate media is finally, after all these months, they're acknowledging there's an issue there that, yeah, the laptop does have information that potentially incriminates Joe Biden in some of Hunter Biden's corruption. And of course, they were keeping this hidden from the voters last November to the point where Twitter banned the account of the New York Post, which broke this story. And they worked very hard to keep it away from you, the American people, in order to get Trump out of the office and his fraudulency, Joe Biden, in. Now, Jimmy Kimmel had Hunter Biden on his show, and what a difference a change of administration makes, because if you remember Jimmy Kimmel, he was always on the warpath about Donald Trump's sons, just criticizing them, questioning what they were doing. But when Kimmel had Hunter on his show, he was making light of it all. It was just, all fun and games and jokes, and social media has basically gone on the rampage talking about Dumb and Dumber on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, which I personally don't watch, but anyway, story coming out of Investment Watch blog, and this is something that we talked about last November. This laptop constitutes evidence that Joe Biden, through Hunter Biden, is compromised by the Chinese Communist government. And that should have been a serious concern for the voters, except, again, it was being withheld from you by the corporate media. Speaking of withholding information from the voters that may be important, the FBI has once again requested a delay in their lawfully required duty to produce all documents in the Seth Rich case. Now, this has already gone on for years with no penalty to the FBI or the Department of Justice. They'll apparently get around to it when they feel like it, 20, 30, 40, 100 years into the future when nobody really cares anymore. So today, the legal team, including Ty Clevenger, received the document from the FBI and Department of Justice, where they again make all kinds of excuses and say we need additional time to produce these documents. They apparently have at least 1,563 pages of potentially responsive information, and they're saying they need more and more time to go through it and presumably sanitize it and make sure it's all squeaky clean. And, again, the blame for Hunter Biden's death goes on to a botched robbery. And this next story, I think, tells us just how much the American political society has declined. There was an online poll talking about celebrities running for the presidency, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's been a football player, a pro wrestler, he's a Hollywood action movie star, and if he were to run for president, he would get almost 50% of the vote if he runs. Angelina Jolie was the runner-up with 30%. Now, I happen to like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think the voiceover he did for Moana was just amazing. And my impression of him, I've never met the man, but my impression is he's a really good guy. But he is an entertainer. The same with Angelina Jolie. And they shouldn't even be in consideration for running for a political career. It'd be like, for a hypothetical example, electing a bartender to the House of Representatives, just to pull an idea out of the thin air. Getting on to the issue of election fraud, this is starting to heat up again, as well it should. And there's an article over in Blabberbuzz saying that the count of the mail-in ballots in Montana's second most populous county found a troubling discrepancy from the 2020 elections. And this review of the mail-in and absentee ballot envelopes was conducted by a group of Missoula County citizens January, finding 4,592 fewer votes than the 72,491 that were tallied. That is a 6.33% discrepancy, enough to switch the outcome of the election in that county. And this shows why election integrity laws are so important at this time, and underscores why the liberal Democrats are trying as hard as they can to prevent any reform to the election system that would make it more and more difficult to steal elections in the future. Now, if you go to the main page of whatreallyhappened.com and you look at that gray permanent article menu bar near the top, over there under that hideously outdated photo of yours truly, there's an article, How to Have Honest Elections. And I wrote that a while back, and since I put that out there, I've gotten emails from other countries saying that's how we do these things here, and it does work to limit election fraud. It makes election fraud very, very hard to accomplish and very, very hard to conceal, and that, of course, is what we need in our current elections. Over in Wyoming, Governor Mark Gordon has signed House Bill 75 into law that requires Wyoming voters to present a valid ID before casting a vote. And the liberal Democrats are on the warpath here. You can't ask for an ID. It's racist, and they are so desperate to sell that idea that they're making all kinds of comments like, blacks can't find the Department of Motor Vehicles. They're too stupid to copy the ID information from their ID to the absentee voter. They're actually turning out to have some very racist ideas about the mental capabilities of the black population in pushing this particular argument. Over in Atlanta, Georgia, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has issued an administrative order refuting Georgia's new election integrity law. And we know that the 2020 election was stolen all over the country, and especially in Georgia. And we know this because there are over 400,000 absentee ballots that were counted in the 2020 election, most of them for Joe Biden, that lack the legally required chain of custody documentation required by the law. They just showed up mysteriously and were counted, putting Joe Biden over the top. Out in Arizona, Representative Mark Fincham is also on the warpath regarding voter laws and voter IDs, and he puts out, a compelling argument. You must present a photo identification to get your COVID vaccine shots. Claire and I certainly had to. You need to show your ID to buy tobacco products, alcoholic beverages, cold medicines. You need to show an ID to fly on airplanes, drive cars, open bank accounts, lease apartments, get mortgages, get hotel rooms, buy a can of compressed air at Walmart, rent tools at Home Depot, rent carpet cleaning machines, cash a check, or enter a committee meeting at the Democratic National Convention. But the liberal Democrats are out there saying that no ID should be required to vote in America's elections because, just take it on faith. The black population is too stupid to get a proper photo ID, and the illegal immigrants would never, ever, 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 ever dare to vote in the American elections. That's really what they're trying to sell you right now. The polls are otherwise. We talked earlier in the week about a poll showing that the majority of black voters think voter ID is necessary to keep the elections honest. And we're looking at a follow-up article. This is from uns.com, saying that a poll of all Americans shows that Americans favor voter IDs by a margin of more than 2-1. And the idea is you can't function in America without a voter ID. So what's the big deal about showing one to vote? And that's really important. Also in Arizona, their legislature has just passed a resolution opposing U.S. House Resolution 1, the federal government's power grab to control the state elections. And we reported yesterday that another lawsuit forced Pennsylvania to take 21,000 dead people off its voter rolls. The question being, why would Pennsylvania want to keep dead voters on the rolls to begin with? The obvious answer I leave to your imagination. The situation around Derek Chauvin's trial is heating up. We've been at it for a little more than a week, and the prosecution is still trying to make the case that George Floyd was suffocated when Derek Chauvin kneeled in the area of the neck. See, earlier in the week it came on out there was a video showing that Derek Chauvin did not actually kneel on George Floyd's neck, but on his shoulder. So the prosecution has now mutated neck to area of the neck in its presentation. And they're making the argument here that the massive amounts of drugs George Floyd was on could not have killed him because he was fighting for his life while being held down by the police. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you can take a lot of drugs and still be fairly conscious up until they kick in. And to show you just how weird this is getting, over at Duke University, the community editorial board of the Chronicle, which is Duke University's student paper, is demanding the university to regulate hate speech on campus after a student pointed out that George Floyd was using drugs. That apparently is now considered hate speech. And the editorial comes after someone posted George Floyd's toxicology report on a residence hall bulletin board that celebrated Black History Month. And the person wrote, mix of drugs present in difficulty breathing, overdose, good man, use of false currency is a felony because Floyd was passing counterfeit $20 bills. So the university is going after these students for pointing out that their drugs may have been a factor in George Floyd's death. And we're seeing yet again in an article from Investment Watch blog that Black Lives Matter is threatening they will burn down American cities if Officer Chauvin is found not guilty. So they're trying to basically convict this man in the court of public opinion, and they don't care about the facts, they don't care about the drugs, they don't care about the fact that Floyd himself was a habitual criminal. It's just, we got a white cop and a dead black victim, and we're going to make a big, big stink about it. Meanwhile, Black Lives Matter has, I think, tried to preview what they're going to do over the George Floyd case, because they have stormed the Iowa state capitol. And if it were Trump supporters, the corporate media would denounce it as an insurrection, but because it's Black Lives Matter, I don't know what they're calling it, empowerment or some nonsense like that. Now, there's been another mass killing, and this one involves a former football player for the NFL, and he basically went into the home of his physician, and the doctor and his family were white, and this NFL player, who was black, shot the doctor, shot the wife, shot two workers who were in the home, and then shot himself. And the corporate media is trying to basically cover that up, because the official story is that all the mass shootings are being committed by the white supremacist Trump supporters. And the reality is, the statistics show the vast majority of mass shooting incidents, as defined by 4 victims or more, are committed by non-white perpetrators. Okay. Illustrating the corporate media's cover-up here, story coming out of UNS.com, and they're taking the Washington... Oh, my goodness, how time flies. I'm going to get back to this story after these words from our sponsors.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through HealthyWorldStore.com.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus.
$500 gets you 2 Commander memberships at Front Sight. $500 for 2 Commander memberships. Give one to whomever you would like.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the corporate media basically in a spin cycle regarding mass shooting. And there's this story from UNS.com, which is taking the Washington Compost to task, saying they only focus on stories where the killers are white and the victims were black, Jewish, Latino, and Asian. And that when you have a black perpetrator and white victims, as we did with this ex-NFL player, it's just bury it on the back page someplace here. All right, let's talk about COVID-19. There's a lot going on there as well. And very worryingly, story from Pasadena Diocese. Reports are now surfacing of people dying following the recently authorized Johnson & Johnson experimental COVID shots in the United States, and these are young people. Now, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is not an mRNA vaccine. It is an adenovirus vaccine, but like mRNA vaccines, there are currently no approved adenovirus vaccines on the market, although the military has used experimental vaccines that are not FDA approved. Over in Great Britain, they're reporting that the resurgence in hospitalizations and deaths is dominated by patients that have received 2 doses of the vaccine. So this idea that life was going to get back to normal following the vaccinations, that's no longer operative. Boris Johnson this week has said that the restrictions are going to remain in place because of the third coronavirus wave, which appears to be linked to the vaccination programs. Anyway, vaccine passports, we keep hearing that. They're already a total flop over in New York. And they rolled it out recently in New York. It's an epic fail. It smacks of the Obamacare boondoggles that they call the death spiral. Current consumers are complaining already that the New York vaccine app is riddled with problems. It can't find your records, and that's because local, state, and national databases aren't in sync or even working together at all. Others are posting complaints the app can't even find your records from weeks ago, so no vaccine pass for you. It's like Obamacare and the Unaffordable Care Act, where you couldn't even log onto their websites for months. I remember that disaster it was. Over in Detroit, they're going to start sending government workers door to door to pressure residents to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The Detroit City Council, composed entirely of Democrats, unanimously approved a $1.2 million contract with the Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation to hire between 50 to 55 additional city employees whose entire job is going to be banging on your door and saying you need to get the vaccine. Shame on you if you do not. Over at Apple, and before I get into this thing, Apple was the company that smeared Georgia for their voter ID laws and said they're racist. But, well, in terms of the coronavirus vaccine passport, they're now launching their own vaccine passport ID system on all iPhones. And so a little bit of hypocrisy and double standard there. Okay, over in Great Britain again, the Big Brother government is mandating that British subjects at pubs register on a government tracking app. And they will be forced to hand over their phone to the bar staff, who must check that the individual is registered on the government's tracking application. And venues will face fines of £1,000 if they are caught admitting people who have not been put on that registry. Story coming on out of Russia today, the bungled handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, and let's be honest, it has been a flustercluck from beginning to end. It says the bungled handling exposes Britain's shamefully riding roughshod over human rights, this according to Amnesty International. In other medical news, and we kind of wonder what's going on here, back in 2017, epidemiologist Shanna Swan succeeded in showing that the sperm of Western men decreased by 59% between 1973 and 2011. And now she is warning that many men will be completely sterile as early as 2045, and that this could potentially be an extinction-level event. And Swan basically is out there saying the fertility crisis is as great, if not greater, a threat than the so-called climate crisis, and that changes must take place. So what is going on there? Is there something in our diet that is affecting it? Remember that epicite gene that was developed specifically to sterilize people who would eat the corn embodying this gene. And it was developed under a grant by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and then acquired by a consortium of which Monsanto is a large part. If that gene has escaped into the wild, that certainly would explain the rapid decline in birth rates. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Planner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Planner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
We are living in dangerous days, and I am frightened by what you say. It chills right to the core. This talk of holy war.
And welcome back to our show here. We're going to talk about the international news now. And there is a story that came out of UNS.com, and the headline really says it all. The Yankees are coming home. The Taliban won. Get over it. And it barely made the corporate news, but it was reported last week that after 20 years of fighting the Taliban are still pretty much in control of Afghanistan. It's almost like the movie The Mouse That Roared. The U.S. has had to back down, and they're pulling their troops out of there. Nobody's going to call it a defeat or a loss, but that's exactly what it is. And it was one of the longest wars in U.S. history. Over in Ukraine, things are definitely heating up there. Story coming on out from Hideout Now. Kremlin prepares to hit back at worst-case U.S. sanctions over the jailing of Alexei Navalny, the SolarWinds hack, and meddling in the election. And again, as we mentioned the other day, there is zero evidence that Russia had anything to do with SolarWinds. There is zero evidence that Russia meddled in the election. But again, this is the United States provoking the Kremlin and escalating the tensions and the situation. story coming on out of Russia Today. If Ukraine launches a full-scale war in Donbass, Russia will be forced to defend its citizens, according to Putin's deputy chief of staff. Russia will be forced to protect the residents of Donbass if Ukraine launches a full-scale war, according to Dmitry Kozak, President Putin's deputy chief of staff, who is himself Ukrainian. Now, Russia is out there warning, and again, this is a story out of Your Destination Now. A senior Kremlin official has warned that if Russia is forced to defend its citizens in the disputed Donbass region, it would be the beginning of the end of Ukraine, unless the United States came in on Ukraine's side, which a lot of people in the U.S. want to happen. They want a major war. They want it to cover up the decline of the economy, because that's worked 2 times before. Crash of 1907, World War I, crash of 1929, World War II, crash of 2008, and look how many enemies the United States is making around the world right now. And the U.S. government is also looking for some way to get the American people to forget all about that stolen election last November. Now, the White House, according to Jem Psaki, is saying the White House is increasingly concerned by the escalating tensions, and they're reporting that Russia has more troops on the border with Ukraine than at any other time since 2014. And again, the goal for the United States is to somehow make it look like this is all Russia's fault, which is why we are still to this very day hearing all this nonsense about how Russia stole Crimea, how they annexed Crimea, and bad Russia, that they're putting troops on their side of the border. Meanwhile, Russia is sending more than 10 Navy vessels, including landing boats and artillery warships, from the Caspian Sea to the Black Sea, supposedly to take part in naval drills near the country's borders with Ukraine. This is coming from Interfax. The excuse me. Russia's defense ministry said the fleet is moving to the area as part of the drills that involve approximately 15,000 personnel and will inspect combat readiness of the country's naval forces by the end of this month. Meanwhile, the United States is also sending warships into the Black Sea. The U.S. Navy destroyers Roosevelt and Donald Cook will be entering the Black Sea on either the 14th or 15th of April next month. Now, Donald Cook had a little bit of an embarrassment some years ago when they were totally paralyzed by a single Russian electronic warfare aircraft. This plane basically flew over them and shut the entire ship down. I'm sure there's been some modifications and probably a replacement of large numbers of the crew, who reportedly were totally demoralized by the experience. Russia, meanwhile, issued a commemorative coin about the Donald Cook. You have to admire the Russian people's sense of humor on that. So the United States notified Turkey about the passage of the warships because of the Montreux Convention. Warships going through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles must be reported to Turkey, and Turkey is now, in fact, confirming these 2 warships will enter the Black Sea. Getting on over to China, Beijing is saying that Washington is behind the aggression that is escalating the Taiwan tensions, and they made a comment that I've been making on this radio show for a lot of years. Do we see Chinese warships in the Gulf of Mexico? And the answer is no, we do not. So the Foreign Ministry has dismissed accusations that China is engaging in intimidation and coercion in Taiwan, and called on the U.S. to recognize the One China principle and refrain from coercive practices, which they have been doing. A U.S. amphibious assault force has joined the carrier group Roosevelt in the South China Sea amid those rising tensions. So this is the second U.S. aircraft carrier entering the South China Sea. And according to the South China Sea Probing Initiative think tank, the USS Makin Island entered the South China Sea Wednesday via the Strait of Malacca, joining the Theodore Roosevelt, which made the same passage several days ago. Getting on over to Israel, they are still trying to find some way to prevent the International Criminal Court from continuing their investigation into whether Israel and the United States have committed war crimes against the people of Palestine. And Israel, again, a story out of Russia Today, has come on out and simply declared that the ICC doesn't have any authority to investigate crimes in the Palestinian territories, and this appears to be a prelude to Israel simply refusing to allow any ICC investigators access to those territories. Okay. Joe Biden is wanting to boost the Pentagon budget with a proposed $715 billion budget. That is a huge amount of money, and this does not include the cost of the wars themselves. And this is, of course, an increase from the prior year. It's a 1.5% increase in defense spending. Again, you know, what a country spends its money on is what it's all about, and what the United States spends the overwhelming portion of its money on is more war. All right, getting to the economy, the U.S. has spent $10 trillion with a T dollars in the last year. And again, it's not like the money is just created out of thin air, which it actually is, but it is created as a loan by the private central bank to the U.S. government to be repaid out of future tax revenues. So take $10 trillion and divide it by the population of legal tax-paying American workers, and you'll see what the tax bill is going to be somewhere down the road, plus the accruing interest on the $10 trillion. Meanwhile, our trade deficit grew to a record $71.1 billion during Biden's first full month in office. And Biden is now releasing details of his planned $2.5 trillion in new taxes on the American people. Now, I know you're still getting your little stimulus payments there of $1,400, but in the long run, you're going to wind up paying tens of thousands of dollars in new taxes in exchange for that little crumb that the Biden administration has dropped on your plate from above. Over in Great Britain, the collapse of the supply chain finance firm Greensill Capital continues to cause repercussions. In Germany, the Private Banking Association has paid out around 2.7 billion euros to more than 20,500 Greensill Bank customers as part of the deposit guarantee scheme after the bank collapsed in early March. And this, of course, all comes from the taxpayers. They're going to foot the losses. No matter what happens, good or bad, the taxpayers pay for all. Over at Amazon, the voting is underway for unionization, and so far, if we are to believe the official results of this election, unionization is losing, and we are being told that the Amazon workers, the majority of them, are voting against it. Now, the people backing the unionization drive is saying that Amazon is using illegal tactics, and some 463 yes votes were recorded after ballot counting ended last night, far outpaced by the 1,100 in opposition. The count was to resume earlier today, and the organization at the center of the fight, the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, has already voiced pessimism at the outcome, all but acknowledging defeat while accusing Amazon of misconduct. So now let's talk about immigration and globalization, there's a lot going on there. Almost 19,000 unaccompanied minors entered the United States from Mexico in March alone. This is the largest monthly number ever. In just 3 months, Biden, who campaigned on what he called Donald Trump's cruel policies on migrant children, has seen an unprecedented number of unaccompanied minors enter the country. And some 19,000 unaccompanied minors are currently being held by Customs and Border Patrol over the course of March. And they're expecting a whopping 26,000 new arrivals daily by September, according to documents leaked by Axios. Now, I have a comment about these child migrants where the liberals are saying they're seeking a better life. These are children. And it is not likely that they have the global awareness to understand what a better life might be. I could imagine they're far more traumatized at leaving their existing home and leaving their parents and being sent to the border. So it's not a migration, it's trafficking. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Story coming on out of Blabber Buzz. Biden has turned our border into a revolving door for criminals previously deported by Donald Trump. And they caught this MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. He was caught after crossing into the United States illegally. And they're asking, how many of these MS-13 gang members are getting through without being noticed? Okay, so MS-13 is a bad gang, and they're causing a lot of damage in the urban environment. Story coming out of the Marshall Report saying that we do have a crisis on the border when cartels make $500 million a month smuggling humans across the border. Now, House GOP members of the Judiciary Committee, Representative Victoria Spartz, slammed the Biden administration for the surge of migrants across the southern border. And Representative Jim Jordan asked the Biden administration, is this border crisis intentional? Well, it almost doesn't matter. It is certainly happening, and it certainly seems to be in response to Biden's policies regarding the border. Nancy Pelosi is still out there insisting things were much worse under Donald Trump, and Joe Biden has the situation well in hand, and we shouldn't question what's going on at the southern border. Florida Representative Kat Kamak is blasting Joe Biden's border policies, labeling him as the trafficker-in-chief as the number of migrant children crossing into the United States from Mexico reaches the highest level in history. Steve Scalise is out there claiming a third of the unaccompanied migrant girls are sexually assaulted somewhere on their journey to the United States. All right. Let's get into gun control issues here. I mean, they're putting pedal to the metal. They want to get rid of the ghost guns. And Tucker Carlson on his show slammed Joe Biden's new executive orders restricting firearms and described it as a targeted attack on Trump voters. And he said gun control is about who controls America. Now, I'm an old-fashioned constitutionalist, where the ultimate authority of the United States of America is with the people of the United States of America. And we have a liberal establishment, socialist, Marxist government that wants to turn us into something else, where we, the people, have no say whatsoever in the running of the country. That was proven last November with the stolen election. Republicans are threatening to sue Joe Biden over his executive actions on guns, and they, accuse him of hypocrisy for pushing more background checks after Hunter Biden lied on his application to get a firearm. So, slap the handcuffs on him. The West Virginia Attorney General is promising to sue the Biden administration if he enacts his gun control policies. This next article is very interesting. It's from Sputnik News, and it's talking about Biden's constitutional overreach or unconstitutional overreach, because Biden has now made the comment that the Second Amendment rights are at stake is a bogus argument, because he says no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. And from the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. And he's absolutely wrong on both counts. The rights conveyed by the Bill of Rights and the Constitution are absolute. They are not modifiable at the whim of the executive branch. And yes, when the Second Amendment was first passed, you could buy any weapon you wanted to own. There were even, believe it or not, there was a fully automatic gun called the Puck that could rapid fire. And if you wanted one, you could get that under the Second Amendment during the early years of this country. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more about gun control after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Corporations, Wall Street and the banks rule our politicians. They don't deserve our thanks, then they tell us. The banks are too big to fail, when the banksters all need to be in jail.
Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the gun grabbers on parade here. And there's a story out of Russia today talking about Joe Biden's obvious disdain for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and his tendency of using the word epidemic to describe gun violence, trying to cash in on the fear of the COVID vaccine. But Russia Today is pointing out the Democrats' obsession with seizing Americans' guns while tolerating violent crime in the name of equity makes it very clear this is not about safety, this is about power. It's about the government having the last say over what the American people are thinking and doing. And I believe there was a prior dictator that said the first thing you do is you take away their guns. If you take away their guns, the people will do what you tell them to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do here. Down in Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee has signed a constitutional carry bill, also known as the Permitless Carry Bill, into law as of yesterday. Pardon me. Now, a little bit of good news about the overreach we're seeing in corporate social media. Right here in Indiana, the Attorney General Todd Rokita has announced he has launched an investigation into 5 of the big tech companies for censoring conservative content. And I wish him a lot of luck on that one. Getting into the world of computers, we keep hearing there's a chip shortage here and a chip shortage there. And it's rather amazing because we're seeing that sales of electronic devices are actually down because of the economy, and yet we keep hearing that there's a shortage. Now, there is this standard display chip. It costs about $1. For the manufacturer. And companies like Samsung and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing say they're both struggling to keep up with demand despite running their factories at over 100% capacity. Now, these inexpensive display drivers are used in every consumer product with a display, and the shortage of chips possibly is going to lead to shortages of popular consumer products like smartphones, laptops, game consoles, even entire automobiles, along with various appliances and smart home devices. And they said they've never, ever seen anything like it. And I'm wondering if maybe chip manufacturing is being diverted to military preparation. Because if you go back and you look at the history of World War II, before the United States officially got into it through Pearl Harbor, there were certain items that all of a sudden there were shortages because the United States government was secretly supplying Europe with weapons systems. They called it the Lend-Lease program. It was still a violation of the nation's neutrality. And, you know, to me, it seems like this is a great opportunity for investors here in the United States of America to launch a chip manufacturing facility and make a lot of money. All right, we're at the top of the hour. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. more. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome back to our show here, and I just got an email correcting me before. The rapid-fire gun that was available when the Second Amendment was being written was not called the Puck, it was called the Puckle gun. It was patented in 1718. And so all those gun grabbers out there who are saying that, the Second Amendment couldn't cover rapid-fire automatic weapons because they didn't exist back then, well, wrong again, liberals. Yes, in point of fact, they did. Well, the phone lines are loading up here, so let's start with Jim in New York. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. They've been, I don't have cable TV anymore, but TV is going on about the George Floyd trial.
Yes.
But it totally blacked out from the media. I don't know if you heard it. A former New York Jet player shot 5 white people
in
South Carolina.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, you did? I missed the early part of your show. So, 5 white people murdered by a former black football player.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been totally blacked out by the media. So whenever someone brings up George Floyd, people should bring up Robert Leslie, 70 years old, Barbara Leslie, 69, and their 2 grandchildren who were murdered by a black in South Carolina.
Well, the numbers showed that the vast majority of mass shootings are done by non-white people, and yet the corporate media is out there trying to make it look like mass shootings are exclusively the province of white people, Trump-voting gun nuts.
Oh, yes. So all the black crime that's been going on for 50 years, this is nothing, though. So whenever you hear George Floyd, I think people should bring up these poor 5 white people that were murdered. Robert Leslie and his wife in South Carolina. Also, Ashley Anderson and her father, I believe, were also from South Carolina. And they were murdered by a black because of a fender bender.
Yes.
So, we could never have an honest discussion on race in this country. An honest discussion.
No, we can't.
Don't blame white people for, quote, being racist because they know people who were victims of black crime. Blame the black criminals.
Yes.
Who do this. And, the people, these liberals like to... I wonder if he's going to call the New Yorker living in North Carolina. They whine about George Floyd, and they ignore all the white victims, these poor souls who were murdered.
Oh, well,
by
they just
blacks.
don't count. They don't fit the agenda.
They don't count, no. No, they don't. They don't count, and by not bringing it up, they're okay with it. But anyway, one more point. I haven't heard Tom in Florida this week. Is he called?
Actually, he is next in line. He's the next call we're taking.
Oh, okay. Well, He's my favorite caller.
Okay.
I always look forward to him. And I wonder what he thinks of this murder by a black New York Jet player. So I'd like to hear his opinion. On that note, you have a great weekend, Mike, and thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you for the phone call, and we're going to switch to Tom in Florida. And Tom, your ears must be burning. What's on your mind today?
Well, I just like to say thank you to Jim, and I like hearing Jim, too. And a great caller himself. So, I just want to say this, Mike. First off, I want to go into the immigration, but I'm not going to go there right this minute. I'm going to go what's going on. There was a case years ago, a girl named Christian. You remember that girl, Christian, and her boyfriend, I think it was Jacobs, the young boy and the girl. They got kidnapped, and they were brought to a house, a crack house, and the girl was raped in front of him, and they beat him, and they shot him to death. And then they dumped his body on the railroad track, and they took her and they raped her constantly for another couple of days. And then they end up letting her body. They found her body in a garbage can. You remember that case, Mike?
Yeah, I remember that case.
Yeah, okay. So that's just one case that Jim should hear about. What about the little boy who rode his bicycle on the black guy's yard and he shot him point-blank range right in front of his sister?
Yeah, I remember that one. That was more recent.
Now, it was very recent. Now, Mike, if this was the reverse, this Zionist media, and you had a call the other day, Peter, another great call, and Peter brought out there's 1.7% of the population is Jews. Okay, I think it's a little higher than that. We'll say 2.5%, whatever. The case is they're running our media narrative. They're telling white women how guilty they should be and white men how guilty they should be about the Holocaust, about slavery and everything. And they're the ones that started slavery over here in the United States.
Yes.
The Zionists. Now, Mike, let's go back to what Jim was just talking about, which is horrific. All those murders, if you ever brought up on your show the FBI statistics, it would blast everybody that listens to your show's mind. The black on white crime compared to the white on black crime, Mike. Why don't you do that one day? Why don't you actually have the whole statistical number of rapes, robberies, carjackings, every other thing? Let's do that one day on your show so everybody can hear it, what you got to say about the FBI statistics that the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, actually has on record. Now, getting back to that, Mike, what about these angel mothers and fathers? Kate Steinle, Molly Tibbetts, and so on and on and on and on and on. What about, you saw the man yesterday on the news on Breitbart talking about his brother was murdered?
Yes.
An illegal alien? And the brother was ready to break down and cry his heart out because he lost his brother? Can you imagine what these people are going through, these angel mothers and fathers, Mike? Does this fumbling buffoon Biden don't care? Let's take 25 million of these illegals out all over the United States and stick them right there in Delaware. Blow up the whole state of Delaware at all. You think they'd like the guy like bumbling buffoon Robinette Biden? Would Robinette get elected? Whatever happened to his son's laptop, Mike? What happened to this Stephen Hunter's laptop? You don't hear a damn word about it. This is all a cabal, man. This is a massive cabal. Now, Mike, here you know what's going on here in South Florida. Have you heard of the latest about South Florida? What's going on here, Mike? Have you heard?
Enlighten us.
But okay, I'll enlighten you. We had a big drug bust down here. $285 million worth of fentanyl was popped here in South Florida.
Yes.
6 Guatemalans and 3 Hondurans, and they're looking for more Mexicans and the drug cartel right here in South Florida, Mike. There was enough fentanyl, enough drugs to kill everybody in South Florida, the state of Florida, 5 times over.
Yes.
That's how much drugs were right here in this one area in South Florida. The FBI, I guess, or the ATF made a big pop here last week. It's been all over the Miami Herald, the Sun Sentinel, all these newspapers, and all the local channels are talking about this major drug bust. That was over $280 million, or I think it was even higher, on fentanyl. So, Mike, where's our security? Mike, we're allowing. Look, what about the water shortage in California, Mike? Peter could call in about that, and I hope Miles and Marco call in. They were great callers too. I hope Miles and Marco call in today, and Peter. But Mike, what about the water shortage in California? But you got almost 9 million illegals in that state,
yes.
Mexicans, Central Americans, in the state of California. How come nobody's talking about that, Mike? How come one of these major networks ain't talking about that? Even Fox News don't want to bring out that number. It's 9 million. I checked it out. 9 million illegals in the state. Water shortages. You got this Como is giving all these illegal aliens in New York, Mike, $15,000.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's not counting the food. That's not counting the furniture vouchers they get. Another $10,000 for buy couches and water beds and every other damn thing they buy. All these white people getting that kind of money?
Nope.
Is a guy in Carolina getting
No,
that
we're
kind
paying
of money?
for it. The white people
Is
are
the guy
paying
in New York
for it.
getting that kind of money? You had the guy in New Jersey throwing me on a bus last week saying I was being racist. I've never been racist. I am a realist, Mike. I don't tell I'm not a racist. I've got some of my best friends are Afro-Americans, okay? So I'm not a racist. I'm a realist. I always use reality, Mike. And I want the facts, the whole facts, none but the facts, Jax. So that's the way it is. And Mike, when the FBI, when the Miami Herald runs a report about all this fentanyl here in South Florida, that ain't me saying that. That's the Miami Herald. That's the Sun Sentinel. Bunch of liberal newspapers talking about how much fentanyl's in this. They confiscated. They could kill Floridians 5 times over. Every Floridian in the state would be dead 5 times over. What kind of nonsense is this, man? And then you got this bumbling buffoon Biden keeps allowing it. He said that we're going to stop building Trump's wall. Now he's being pressured in because some of these demon rats are saying you don't do that, you're going to get annihilated in the next election. But, the one guy in New Jersey, for 2 years, all I heard that guy say was how bad Trump was. I haven't heard this guy calling your show one time since Bumbling been in there talking about what great things Bumbling has done. What has Biden done? I want to hear what he's got to say he's done great, that he likes. Because I was all negative about Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump tried to give us sovereignty. The bumbling buffoon's giving us an illegal invasion.
Yes.
Trump tried to keep sovereignty in this nation, and this buffoon here is we're being invaded. It's like locusts coming in here eating the cornfield, and then they're moving on, or whatever field they eat. The locusts keep eating. They eat one thing, and they go to another. No, Mike, you said something very powerful in your last segment about these kids. These kids are being brought up to our border without parenting, okay?
Yes.
What are they going to do, Mike? Who's going to pay for all this? The food they're going to have to consume. The cars they're all going to have to drive. They get jobs. You can't live in the United States without a car, basically. Okay? Public transportation ain't that good in this country. So, Mike, what's going to end up happening here? And you got this Bill Gates, this slime bag. He's talking about the world's overpopulated. Why don't he kill off his kids? Why did him and his wife Melinda have kids? Why did they have kids if the world's so overpopulated? I like to ask Bill Gates, why are you having kids, Bill Gates? Why did you have kids? Why are all these rich bastards having kids whenever they said the world's overpopulated? When they're going around telling everybody, oh, you got to, but all these Central Americans coming here, they're breeding like flies. They're having 4 or 5 kids.
Yes.
Let's get to the real truth about this, Mike. Like Jim said, the crime, if the crime statistics were really to come out, white people would be in an uproar. We would be in pitchforks. We would have pitchforks and shovels ready to get rid of all these freaking liberal, licky-kissy nut jobs that are mentally deranged.
Yes.
They have mental deranged syndrome, man. They hate their own skin color. They hate everything about our Constitution, our founding fathers. This is mental illness, man. Mike, that's all I look at it. It's mental illness. I live in South Florida, Mike. I'm going to tell you one more time. I want everybody in your show to understand this. I live in an area when I was a young man. I was a young boy and grew up here. Wonderful, beautiful. It's called the Magic City, Mike. I want you to hear this loud and clear, Mike. There's not one white Anglo male or one Anglo female on the Miami-Dade County Commission, Mike. Or Broward County's only got like half. Broward County used to be 90% white.
Yes.
Back in the 80s. Okay? And Palm Beach ain't far behind. So all these people are coming here. Now I hear about immigration, but one guy's from Carolina, immigration. No, immigration is not good because they take away my cultural identity. They're taking it away from me, my Anglo-Northern European heritage that my family brought here 200 years ago, Mike. 188 years, I believe it was, actually. 188 years, almost rounded off. 188 years my father's family came here. Okay?
Yes.
I got to hear this nonsense about, how bad white people are every day by the filthy leftist Zionist media, and we're the ones that saved them from getting annihilated. Hey, do you think, Mike, I want to ask an honest opinion for you, and I'll hang up. Would the Jews be here right now if it weren't for Northern European white men and women fighting in World War II, and the white Russians that were Christians?
No, they probably would. There certainly wouldn't be as many of them. And one of the reasons that I doubt the Orthodox story of the Holocaust is that Israel doesn't act like they have anything to be grateful for. They just have their hand out all the time to the United States for more weapons and more money.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for telling it like it is, because exactly. And the Spielberg made one movie I told you about in the past, about a year ago. I told about Spielberg and Private Ryan. And if you look at the end of the movie, all the crossing, he had one day show a star to David. Okay, fine. But Mike, the real thing is, they should be on their hands and knees thanking the Christian males and females of this country
Yes.
who gave them their salvation. Because otherwise, Mike, it was men who believed in the cross that they're even in existence to this day with all this power they think they deserve, which they don't. And that's what I'm very upset about, Mike. I'm getting older now, and I don't care anymore because I know in the end, I am a Jew, Mike. You know what? I'm a Jew, but I'm a Jew for Jesus Christ.
Okay.
How's that, Mike? I'm a Jew for Jesus. And I'll scream it out to any rabbi or anybody, any Baptist, Protestant, Catholic, I don't care who you are. I'm a Jew for Jesus. And if they don't like it, they can lump it, Mike. And there's some of these callers, they're calling your show, they're always this and that. I am not crazy. I know exactly what's happening. I foretell the future, man. I've seen the future, Mike. There's a lot of stuff I predict. The only thing I haven't predicted yet is the one he had to win the lottery or the Powerball. So I did. I'd probably give you 25% of it right now.
I would certainly take it, and I would enjoy it greatly. I'm at that point now where I'm buying Powerball tickets just out of desperation to keep getting new equipment for this studio here.
Well, I understand that. But look, Mike, in all seriousness now, Mike, one more thing, I'll let you go. I know you got other callers. This immigration problem, the bubbling buffoon Biden's putting on this country, Mike, it's going to be our downfall.
Yes.
It's all out civil war.
It's certainly going to contribute.
In the future, in a few years, Mike, we will be having a CW. There's no question about it because they're not coming here to compliment. They're coming to literally take your job and eat your lunch and take your jobs. And the markets, I know people can't even find jobs, Mike. It's horrible.
Yes.
People think, oh, there's not that many jobs. It's all a big scam. It's a lie. It's a lie, Mike. Okay, and if the job they were suppressing the wages so bad that they're paying $9 an hour, $8 an hour. You can't live on that.
Nope.
Mike, right down the street from me, 2 blocks away, there's a house right down there. There's 20 people living in the house. 20 people, 2 blocks from where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
2 blocks. 20 people living in one house. There's like 8 vans out there, 3 pickup trucks. I'm like, what? And I asked a couple of people in the neighborhood, what is this? Well, they're all coming from where. And they're putting them in one house. 20 vehicles. I don't know how many people are living there. I'm not going to spy on them or nothing. I'm like, what the hell is this? I thought it was, like a party. Every day I go by, there's all these cars. And I'm like, what the hell is this? It's unbelievable, Mike. So what are they going to find? Section 8 housing for them before they find it for white and black Americans?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look what just happened up in New York, I mean, where they're handing out more money to the illegals who were inconvenienced by COVID than they are to the American people.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable what's happening, Mike. And you know what? We, like Marco said, we sit on our hands. We really don't do nothing. I try to do as much as I can. I'm not the greatest help as I was, a couple of years back. And this COVID nonsense. Mike, I could go on and on, but I'm like, I got other callers. But look, Mike, I was in the hospital. I told you 2 weeks ago. And guess what? At night I couldn't even sleep because out in the hallway they're all speaking Spanish. I felt like I was in a third world country getting treated. It's unbelievable. There's no uniform common language anymore in this country.
No.
Nope. Every group in the country wants to keep their own language. Look at the Somalians in Minnesota. Look at what's going on in Portland, Maine. I have a friend who lives in Portland, Maine, Mike. He said it's horrible up there. They're all the whites are putting their houses up for sale. They all want to move. And that's brought to you by Barry Soetoro, Hussein Obama. If I had a son, he'd look like this. And like one more thing, Mike, that guy Jim that called in, last call,
yes,
he's right. That would have been the other way around. If that would have been a white football player killing a black family, it'd be on every major network for the next 20 days. Every major network. Would have been a white NFL retired football player shooting up a black family, that would have been a news unrelenting. We would never hear an end of it for like 20, 30 days, Mike. Yes or no?
No, we wouldn't. I mean, there's a clear bias and agenda in the corporate media to portray all violent crime as caused by white people, and the victims inevitably are non-white. But we know that's not the reality.
Absolutely. Anyway, Mike, I know you got other callers, so I'll let you go. But, Mike, I hope you do a FBI statistic one day on your show this week, or next week, and have a great weekend, you and Claire. I hope next weekend you do an FBI statistics and show actually all your listening audience understand what the FBI statistics is saying to what's really going on in this country about black and white, white on black crime, Hispanic crime, like you brought up MS-13. We don't even hear. They're suppressing all this, Mike.
Yeah, they
They're
are.
suppressing it for a reason.
They
want to wipe
really
out
are
the
to
white
push
vote
that globalist agenda.
Mike, one more thing.
Well, Tom, I got to let you go.
45, Mike.
Got it.
45% of people of over age of 45. Since we're 45 years old, the world population has doubled. If you're 45 or over, in your lifetime, the world population is
Okay,
doubled.
Tom, we got to take a break for commercials. Thank you for the phone call. We'll be back with more phone calls after these few words.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
Welcome back to our show here. And again, I'd like to start this out with a heartfelt thanks to everybody listening to this broadcast or reading the website for your financial support, because without it, we just simply would not be here. It does unfortunately cost a bit. to have servers running and ISPs and constantly be replacing equipment as it wears out. And as you can tell, we do a lot of wear and tear on equipment here. Unfortunately, it is not enough, and we do need your continued support in any amount. There's no such thing as too small a donation, and even a single dollar being sent in, if it's sent in by all of you, could make a significant impact. So once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. Now, if you mail in a donation for $100 or more, you will get your choice of an RBN coffee mug or an official RBN t-shirt, and obviously you need to include your t-shirt size and a return address. If you send in $115, you will get both items and the bragging rights that go along with them. And don't forget, the Front Sight Firearms deal is still going on as well, and that really is a sweet deal. Okay, we're going to go back to the phones now to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike. Great call by our friend Tom in Florida. Didn't know he was a Jew, though, till today.
Yep.
So that was surprising. And Tom, if you're still listening, when you do get your own show, you're going to have to call it One More Thing.
I hated to cut them off, but you know those commercial breaks are set in stone, actually set in silicon.
Yeah,
we can't hit the button on it.
That might have been his third or fourth One More Thing. So I think it was
Yeah.
I think you were generous.
I think there actually is a talk show on the East Coast that's called One More Thing. Somebody emailed me about that.
We're going to have to buy the rights.
Okay.
And maybe one of those checks that RBN gets from the Koch brothers, we could divert some of that money for Tom.
Okay. I wasn't even aware that RBN was getting checks from the Koch brothers. And
I wish it was.
When we win the Powerball, we'll get Tom his own show.
Okay. Two quick points before my two side issues. Mike, is the CIA profiting from this human trafficking?
I imagine the CIA is profiting from everything they've got their fingers into, from drug running to human trafficking to assassination. And certainly a lot of people are making money off this trafficking. And when we get into the word trafficking, we have to ask ourselves how many of these very young boys and very young girls are actually being siphoned off to be traded and sold and rented to pedophiles and such.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned $500 million monthly. Is that correct?
That's how much money. That's how much money the cartels are making.
Yeah, I mean that's just more illicit funds to go with the drug money.
Yes.
For their black budget. So, but I know you had a past in Hollywood, and I definitely see a Hollywood movie or two coming in the future focusing on these poor kids and their brutal trek through the desert.
Yes.
More sympathy for the kids. Here are my main points as far as the Democrats and this gun legislation. Unlike Trump, when it came to sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, the Democrats will not hesitate to send in federal forces and arrest recalcitrant governors, sheriffs, in order to implement this legislation.
Yeah, that's entirely likely. I mean, there's still that case before the Supreme Court if the police can enter your home and seize your guns without a warrant. I haven't heard a decision on that one.
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard that yet. And then you mentioned yesterday that story about, I think it was in, it's happening all over the country, but I think the focus was Oregon, where it's talking about a correct math answer is racist.
Yes.
Now, aren't these this very same people, these people on the left, who are lecturing us about trusting the science?
Yes, they are. They absolutely are.
And now they're saying, well, these answers, and Why should we trust the science if these same people are telling us that a correct answer is racist?
Well, you know something? There's an out there for people who think they're paying too much taxes. I mean, because they can put a completely wrong answer on the tax form, and if they get caught by the IRS, they can say, look, a correct answer would have been racist, according to the Oregon Department of Education.
Exactly. I mean, this whole agenda is so bizarre, but what's even more worrying and terrifying is the Democratic politicians aren't rejecting these theories. They're not speaking out against them. They're not condemning them.
Yeah, that is a little scary.
That's all I got. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to actually take a break for commercials and back with more phone calls after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Amazon customer. It's amazing. I just ordered my second bottle. In 1 month, my blood pressure dropped significantly. I no longer get chest pain after I exercise. The reviews are spot on. My target is to get off of BP meds, and if it keeps going like this, I see a light at the end of the tunnel. Amazon customer. Extendivite works great. This product has made my blood pressure and cholesterol stable. I highly recommend it. Amazon customer. Excellent herbal formula. I've been using it to keep my cardiovascular system fine-tuned. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did.
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What is on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking the call. I called about the voting rights, but yeah, surprised to hear Tom was Jewish. When he talks about the white Anglo male, it made me think of that movie Beyond Thunderdome, the character Master Blaster.
Yes.
You remember that movie?
Oh,
where you
yes.
had the big dumb monsters guy with like a shield helmet and he couldn't see, and then you had the little midget guy on his back saying,
Yes.
fight. That's pretty much the white Anglo male, right? And then the little guy's like a Jewish Zionist guy.
You're not the first person to make that comparison.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought I just
it's
made it
actually
up.
quite common.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think. If you look at the past 100 years, what's happened to the white Anglo male, it's pretty pathetic, really. As I'm a white Anglo, but and then before that, I guess it was the British Empire, pretty much doing the same thing, huh? Same system, Master Blaster.
Yeah.
But anyway, the voting rights. Okay, to me, it's just another failure of the conservatives because, look, 10 years ago, the Democrats are basically saying blacks are too dumb to get an ID, right?
Yeah.
That's
Which
the
is a
basis of
racist
their
comment,
view.
I might add.
Yeah. So all a conservative really could have done 10 years ago could have said, oh, actually, are you saying blacks are too dumb to get IDs? What's the problem? But you notice they don't do that.
No, they
And,
should.
Yeah, and I remember, it's just a failure to, first of all, they're going along with the Democrat narrative, so they're letting them win the argument, and then they're failing to make any arguments that make sense. And I remember when Trump was in there, you were talking about how Trump got rid of the voter security committee, whatever it was called. With,
Voting
Chris
integrity,
Kobach.
yeah. And it was a huge mistake, and I said at the time, if Trump does not deal with our crooked election system, he will lose in 2020, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah. And not only that, they went after Chris Kobach and destroyed his political career.
Yes,
the Republicans did.
Yep.
Just like, so I'm not going to let it raise my blood pressure anymore. The Republicans are, do I really care if they go away? It's all based on, oh no, we'll have one party. But if you see how the Republicans actually govern, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to worry about them anymore, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. If they're too dumb if they're dumb enough to let it happen, they deserve what they get. So, kind of like the white Anglo male being Master Blaster. But anyway, that's my main point. It's just, one other thing, you were saying they want a one-party Democrat system.
Yes.
And I used to think that, but if you look at what they're doing with, what's the guy's name? The kind of new conservative wing of the Democrats now, Joe Manchin.
Yes.
So he came out against the minimum wage. He came out against a lot of the COVID relief, right? So he's kind of positioning. So they're using him as an excuse because they know they have the majority. They could do what they want.
Yes.
And so they're using him as an excuse not to do that stuff. So basically they're adding him to the Republicans to not get things done. And they have to keep that divide and conquer thing going so nothing gets done that the people want, except for Zionism or, corporate fraud and stuff. They'll let that stuff go, but anything that is good. So my theory is I think Biden said we want a Republican Party. I mean, they need the Republicans there. If the Republicans went away, you could just add the Republicans to that Joe Manchin wing, and it wouldn't really make much difference. So I think they have to have two parties. I don't see them letting the Democrats have.
Well, see, the idea of having two parties was to create the illusion that the American people had some kind of choice in what was going on. But as of the last election, obviously that is not the case, and they probably decided, well, we don't need to go along with the charade of a two-party system anymore, since the government now controls the elections.
It might be. I've come to the point where I'd rather just have that, because if you just added the Republicans to the Joe Manchin wing of the Democrats, it really wouldn't. It would get rid of this whole Democrat versus Republican charade.
Yes.
And like Tom brought up some points. The fentanyl. Well, the Trump also got rid of the lawsuit against the Sackler family that was going after these guys for designing.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have gone after George Soros or these organizations at the border doing this, it wouldn't be a problem right now. So there's just so many things there that I'm getting sidetracked there, but that aren't
Well,
true.
I think where you're going with this, and it's something a lot of people have pointed out, there seems to be some kind of a controlling authority above the Republican Party, above the Democratic Party, and even above the White House that is really calling the shots. And, I'm starting to think if the CIA has succeeded in compromising virtually everybody in the government so that they can basically run the show.
I think that's what it is, and it's the Federal Reserve and the basically Zog or whatever, the mafia, people like the Sacklers, who just the billionaire class that can do what they want. When even a country like China would have arrested those people.
Yes.
Or Putin. We don't arrest billionaires. They're above the law. And but yeah, I guess. When you look at the Constitution, the government's supposed to print the money, and that seems to be the heart. If you have a private cartel printing the money, like you guys say, that's
well,
the end of
this private central banking scam has been played on the human race for something like 300 years now, and we're all raised and brainwashed to think this is the way it's supposed to be, but it isn't, and it's certainly not the way this country started.
Exactly. So it's and then we became Master Blaster.
Yes, we did.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Same to you, and we're going to switch to Karen in West Virginia. Hello, Karen. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. A lot's happened since I called in last. I've been so frustrated since the election and everything. I decided to go to Plan B and get legal residency in Panama. And
okay.
I flew down there. I was down there for a couple of weeks, and it's so refreshing to spend some time in a country that actually protects their borders and protects their citizens. I'm retired. I had to produce my Social Security income. I had to be fingerprinted by FBI and have that document with me, and have everything apostilled by the consulate in the Panamanian consulate here in the U.S.
Yes.
Take all that, had all that courier down to my lawyer in Panama, and they just don't have any of the problems down there that we have. There is no road. There's one highway that goes through Panama.
Yes.
It does not extend into Colombia. There's jungle. If anybody tries to penetrate the jungle, they're rounded up pretty quick and sent back to where they came from. And then on the Costa Rica side, the east side, they have border checkpoints. And you just have to, you have to be there for a good reason or you're not allowed in. And it's just amazing to me that a country that has no standing army, like Panama,
mm-hmm.
can secure its borders. And if you want to reside there, you have to prove that you're capable of taking care of yourself and that you don't have any criminal record.
Okay.
And so I come back here, and then the borders are wide open, which I knew this was going to happen with Biden. And 20,000 kids now they have.
Yes.
Putting these people up in hotels, I mean, it's just such a slap in the face. I mean, I just can't stay here for the remainder of my life. I may come back here periodically. I'm not sure what I'll do with my house, but you don't even see the stuff on television there that you see here. This whole society is just being psyop day after day after day.
Yes.
You know, like Tom said, you know, about how, you know, and the first caller from New York, about how if a black is killed by a white, it's on the news over and over again. If it's the reverse, you never hear about it.
Yes.
And the ads there, another thing is the television ads, you don't see the mixed couples. You'll see a Hispanic family or a white family or a black family, but it's not all mixed up like they're pushing that.
Yes.
And I think there were just things left out of our founding documents that just kind of doomed this country. And just like the last caller said, there seems to be a power above and beyond the, you know, the Senate and the House, and even the president that's running everything, and they're just like front men. But, you know, if you go to another country and spend a little bit of time there, the people there are so much happier.
Yes.
And they're so much more secure. You can't just go down there and take somebody's job away. You can't just crash the border and just come in, you know, and stick around and never leave. It just is just shocking to me to be here in my own country. I've never had a country, Mike. This has gone on since Reagan was in office.
Yes.
You know, one way or another, they're always letting them in.
Well, Eisenhower did succeed in stopping it for a while.
Pardon me?
I said Eisenhower did succeed in stopping it for a while with his Operation Wetback.
Yeah, but after that, it's been a constant deluge of people, to the point where there's just going to be nothing here but poverty. How can you import poverty and plug these people in to any kind of jobs where they're going to be self-supporting?
Well, you see, that's part of the globalist agenda, because before they can drop all the borders, all nations on Earth have to be driven down to the same level of poverty and squalor to prevent mass migrations. And that's what's going on here. The middle class is being crushed out of existence. The poor are being made poorer. And, you know, the billionaires, of course, are buying themselves out of that plan and staying billionaires. But it's part of that globalist agenda that it's going to be one planet in equal poverty forever.
Yeah, there's something going on. Because in Panama, I think the average income is around $24,000 a year. But then if you go to Honduras or Guatemala or El Salvador, it's more like $4,000 or $5,000 a year.
Yes.
Now, I'm sure the Panama Canal, because of all the trade that goes through there, that helps boost the the economy a lot in Panama.
Yes.
But I know I made the right decision to go down there and apply for residency. I'll have to go back down in a few months. It takes them about 4 or 5 months to process everything. But it's not crowded there. I mean, everywhere you go in the United States now that's near a beach, it's just crowded.
Yes.
And I went to the beaches there. Well, you know in Hawaii what it's like.
Yes.
But I went to the beaches in Panama, and there was like 2 or 3 people and me, and that was it. It's not crowded. So, I don't know. I'm just wanted to share that with people that, maybe the best thing to do, I know Tom's frustrated, he had a good call today, and, maybe the best thing to do is maybe look outside of the U.S., because if this is their plan, in West Virginia, we haven't had any 400 kids dumped into our school system. But where are they going to put these kids? Are they just going to take them to South Dakota and Wyoming and Iowa and just dump them? What are they going to do with them? What's the plan?
I have I don't know. One plan may be to eventually put them all in uniform and hand them a rifle and send them off to fight the Russians and the Chinese. But the Army actually tried a test program where they brought in a bunch of illegal immigrants and said, if you would fight for us, we will get you a green card when your term of enlistment is up. And they turned out to be such unmotivated fighters that the Army dropped the program.
Yeah, because see, I just had a friend here today, and that he thought that was his thought, is that they can't trust the white guys from the flyover states anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to bring in all these young kids and indoctrinate them about how terrible everything is in the United States, and we got to go here and we got to go there and fix this and fix that, and then make them soldiers. But I don't see it. I mean, I just don't. I mean, I just don't know what's going on. It's really perplexing, and I can see why people are upset about it. Every time I just look at that border situation, I don't know how. Because I lived in California, I lived in Oregon. I saw how we were inundated.
Yes.
While I lived on the West Coast, that's what brought me to West Virginia, and we haven't had it here. But oh boy, I'm telling you. Well, I'll let you go, Mike. I just wanted to share that with you. That there are other places that you can hang your hat and maybe be better off, because if this is like a suicide thing that they're doing here to the American
I
people.
agree. This is going to end horribly for the country and the American people. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to start with Mark in North Carolina. And Mark, I'm going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Well, for one thing, the Second Amendment, what they're trying to do, and let's get something straight about the Second Amendment, okay? Up till the 1960s, early to mid-60s, Second Amendment was, really the Second Amendment. You had a right to carry a firearm. Didn't even matter if you were a felon or ex-felon. It didn't matter. But the problem is, the first time they made a mistake and changed it was with the submachine guns back in the 1930s.
Yes.
Because of the gangsters at that time. Never should have happened. Then again, in the 60s, it was even worse when they came up with, I think it was 1968, some kind of act, again, where a felon couldn't own a gun and you had to have a background investigation of some kind. The only way that an amendment to the Constitution should be changed, one of the Bill of Rights, is
with another amendment. Mark, I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Extendivite 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop terrorism. please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real. Take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Working 2 jobs ends never seem to meet. She often goes hungry, so her babies can't eat. Fatherless son wears torn clothes to school. We're making fun of him's the only golden rule. She doesn't know she's a
And welcome back to our show, last segment of the program on this Powhana Friday, and we're talking with Mark in North Carolina about the Second Amendment. And Mark, just take it away.
Yeah, they never should have done that in 1968, and they shouldn't have done it in 1930. Because once you chop away an amendment without actually having a constitutional amendment, and you leave it in the hands of legislatures, you're destroying the Bill of Rights right there and then. Same thing with the First Amendment. I don't know if you remember, too, but back in the 1960s when Malcolm X was murdered, he had a gun. He didn't have it on him when he was at the ballroom. I believe New York City had some kind of ordinance, what they never should have gotten away with, called the Sullivan Law, where you couldn't carry a gun out in the street unless you had a license. But that was, that never should have been allowed either, because it's not a state's right. That is your right as a citizen. And he had guns. He was talking about it to protect himself because he knew his life was in danger. And he was an ex-felon. So,
Yes.
it was not a big deal at that time. That's, people, that was a right. That was your right as a citizen of this country to own firearms. And we've got to make sure, we've got to get together and make sure that this demented clown doesn't get away with this, that there's no way they can confiscate any of our guns or any of our rights. It's got to stop. And that brings me back to what's going on with Russia now. This clown is going to start a war.
Yes, he is.
Now, my opinion is this: they're probably going to try to. They're arming Ukraine. Okay, something even Obama wouldn't do.
Yes.
And I don't know. Maybe they think Ukraine can take on Russia. Russia will probably be in Kiev in about 3 or 4 days if this happens. Maybe even less than that. The question is, at that point, what would the U.S. and NATO do? If they get involved, I believe they'll be crushed. They'll be driven right, probably out of Eastern Europe as a whole. Now, the question at that point, would it go nuclear or not? And that's where we really, that's a big concern, because they may try to play the game, well, no, we have to now because now we're so threatened.
Yes.
And they start firing the nukes. Of course, that's it. But another possibility is, at that point, they would try to get a draft going and say that, we got to hold our ground and, bolster up our military in Europe and then take whatever areas Russia took and take it back. That might be the thing. And, of course, that would mean a draft.
Yes.
And that could also be the destruction of this country, because this country's not on very steady wheels right now. It really isn't.
No, it is not.
It's in very bad shape, very demoralized, and I don't think people are going to buy this crap with Russia either, by the way. No, nobody I know thinks, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people I know think
That's what I'm
Russia's
seeing around here as well. They think it's just another U.S. manufactured war for the benefit of the military-industrial complex.
Well, one thing, Mike, is funny, because you were talking to Tom before. I think he said he was a Jew for Jesus or something like that. You ever think of getting Brother Nathaniel on your show? He would be a good guest. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I know who he is, and I've linked to some of his videos. Yeah. Anyway, Mark, I got to let you go. We're at the end of the program, and my apologies to those who are still waiting on hold. Please call in on Monday, and we'll get to you then. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend, and aloha, America.